It's working.
I saw you on film again.
Yeah. We're ready. Hello. Greetings, everyone. Hello. All right, guys. We need to get this party started. Woo! Everybody can find a seat. Amanda and Jesse, if you could start working your way up to the stage. Can't hear? Hello, hello. Let's try again. Raise your hand. No, that's silly. Raise your hand if you can't hear me. That makes no sense. If you can hear me, raise your hand. Barely? All right. How's this? Damn. This is very close to my face. Okay. Everybody good? So did you hear yeah, Jesse and Amanda, if you could get up here, that'd be lovely. All right, guys. Good evening, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Valerie Blackburn, and I'm the past co-captain of House District 2B. I was also heavily involved with the Get Out the Vote efforts during the 2022 midterms. Good times. Thank you for being here. It's wonderful to see so many people interested in finding out more about our candidates and participating in this important process. I have not personally made up my mind about any of these races, so I am just as eager to hear the candidates' responses as you are. This is the first of 4 Here's the Ticket events. This evening's forum is brought to you by the leaders of HD1 and HD2. I'd like to recognize Emily Parker, Sheila Kowal, sorry about that, Sheila, Sandy Berenbaum, and 23 other Denver Democrat leaders who have been meeting since August of last year to pull these events together. Tom, I love having a designated person to start applause. I appreciate that. Thanks especially to Emily and Sandy for their work over the past couple of weeks to make tonight a success. I'd also like to recognize Laura Mullins, who always seems to get pulled into anything important. I know we also have guests here tonight from other House districts. We are, will anyone in a leadership position with any of the 9 Denver districts please stand up and be recognized? Yeah, baby. That's good. Awesome. Thanks so much for all of your work on these events, as well as through the entire election process. Y'all, you know I have to do this part. Get out the vote doesn't happen without money. $10 is helpful. More money is even more helpful. If it's possible, if it is within your means, it would be great if sometime tonight, later in the week, you contribute something to your specific House district. We are all going to need the money as it gets closer to the primary, so thanks in advance for anything you can do. All right, gang, on to the main attraction. The questions for tonight were compiled from those submitted online by the community. The essence of many of these questions were submitted multiple times, so the team took the best words possible from as many people possible. Thank you to everyone. The clock is ready to go.
Thank you to all who gave us some excellent questions. Now here are the rules for the candidates. Candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement and 1 minute for a closing statement. Each candidate will be asked the same question and will have an equal amount of time to respond as specified with that question. There's a clock facing the candidates. I was going to show it to you, but if I touch it, it might not work again. It will give a 10-second warning to wrap up. It also dings if they go over time. It dings if you go over time. By the way, Emily is also running the clock this evening. And we let her stay even though she's wearing red. We will not be taking questions from the floor. You've already had the opportunity to submit questions. All the candidates know about the opening and closing statements. They do not know the questions we are going to ask this evening. Okay, I think it's time. Jesse, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement. So I'm going to sit down, make it a timer.
I won't start the timer until you start talking, so
Okay.
we're good.
It turned itself off.
Long press.
And is that gonna look to?
Can you hear me?
Yes, so it'll go like this. So that's what it looks like.
Well, hello, Denver Democrats. It is so nice to see you here tonight. Thank you so much for the invitation and for welcoming us here. My name is Jesse Danielson. I'm a state senator and I serve in Jefferson County. I was the state director for America Votes for 6 years. And since then, I've served in the state legislature for 11 years, serving as the Speaker Pro Tem in the House and the chair of the Business and Labor Committee in the Senate. I've spent the last 2 decades working to expand access to the ballot and strengthen our democracy. In 2013, I helped develop the Voter Modernization Act, which was otherwise known as House Bill 13-1303. This is a measure that established vote centers and vote by mail all across the state, among a number of other protections for voters. It is now considered the gold standard across the country in terms of election access and voting rights. I was appointed to the commission to oversee its implementation after the passage of the law. Since then, I've continued to lead on voting rights in the legislature, passing landmark laws to protect and expand access to the ballot, including automatic voter registration, voting rights for voters with disabilities, and many more. I also want to mention some of the other bills that you might recognize that I've passed because of the values that we want to see in our leaders statewide. I passed the Equal Pay for Equal Work Act, the Farm Worker Bill of Rights, the measures in terms of the Native community and establishing the Office of Visiting and Murdered Indigenous Relatives, and lots of measures to protect older Coloradans so that they can age with dignity in place as long as they wish. And above all, I think you'll see a long record of workers' rights laws, including the Worker Protection Act. And thank you. I love that. This is going to be fun. Amanda, you have 2 minutes.
Perfect. It just feels like every moment that you turn on your phone, there's some new horror show, right? Trump is threatening to nationalize our elections, confiscating documents in Georgia, right? Threatening every piece of Colorado's election system. And just today, they're advancing the SAVE Act, right? In a moment where President Trump is threatening every aspect of Colorado's elections, we cannot afford to have anyone in charge of the 2028 presidential who has never run an election before. So my name is Amanda Gonzalez. I am currently the clerk and reporter in Jefferson County, where I've run elections for more than 500,000 people. And I get the sense that this is a pretty savvy crowd. And so I won't list off my endorsements. You can find those online if you want. I'm not going to read you my resume because I also think that you all probably know better than to trust politicians who say they're going to do things. So I'd love to tell you about some of the things that I've actually done. Under my leadership, we increased voting from Jeffco's jail by more than 900%, enfranchising hundreds of voters. We also modernized the way that we train our election workers the more than 900 election workers in Jeffco, and we protected them in the face of increasing threats. We also had the highest voter turnout that Jeffco has ever had. And we did that $2 million under budget. Okay? Yes, it's really exciting. But I am ready for a fight. I am the first in my family to go to college. I'm the first in my family to go to law school. And with your help, I am going to be the first Latina Secretary of State that Colorado has ever seen. So excited to chat.
Thank you both so much. We have 5 questions coming your way. You have 1 minute for each answer. Question number 1. Colorado's voting system, including universal mail-in voting, automatic registration, and reasonable ID requirements, makes it so our state has some of the highest voter turnout in the country. How do you propose securing our voting system from federal changes which might weaken it? Let's start with Jesse on this one.
Watching
the timer. So, as I mentioned, I don't just know the election law in Colorado, I helped build it. And so I am ready and willing and keyed up and qualified to stand up and defend it. That's going to be the primary task of the next Secretary of State, to build on the good work of Secretary Griswold and carry it forward. Constant communication to the voters, to the electorate, about what their rights actually are. And working hand in glove with county clerks across the state to support the work that they're doing, respond to the needs of the voters, regardless of their zip code. And we're ready to get that started ASAP, because in terms of my campaign, that's how I started. Traveling the state, sitting down in counties from Conejos to Saguache, Larimer, Denver, Jeffco, Weld, you name it, we've been there, and we're learning what we need to do to make sure the vote is protected in all corners of the state. Yeah. We cannot voluntarily comply with Trump's, I want to use an unkind word, but we're in a church, right? How does tyranny prevail? When we voluntarily cede power. The control of elections is squarely within Congress's power and the state. The president cannot unilaterally change elections, right? He cannot change it by executive order. It is not in his power. But he is going to try with all of his might. And that is why we need election officials that are going to hold the line. I'm the only attorney in this race. I'm the only person who's actually run elections, and I am ready to fight tooth and nail to protect what we have in Colorado.
Thank you. The second question, Amanda, we'll start with you. What policies of the current Secretary of State are you planning to continue if elected? What current policies would you want to change?
Colorado does have absolutely the best elections in the country, right? We have where we automatically send every registered active voter a ballot in the mail. We have in-person voting options. We have same-day voter registration. It is just an excellent place to be a voter, and we have to protect all that. But things that I'm looking forward to, maybe not changing, but adding on to, is the economies of scale that we can use at the Secretary's office. As the clerk and recorder in Jeffco, I'm lucky. I have a wonderful staff, and we're well-resourced. I have 115 full-time employees that report up to me. I have IT professionals. I have communication staff. My counterparts in Saguache and Conejos maybe have 4 employees total, right? But they have to do the same kind of communication out to voters. They still have to be experts in IT. And I would love to help support them as the Secretary of State to make sure they have the resources they need to protect their voters and get accurate information out.
Still on.
So I think that what we're going to need to do moving forward is build on the excellent election laws that we have to protect the voters of the state of Colorado, and it's going to be a constant defense. And I have been working on this for 20 years, so that the relationships built between the next Secretary of State, I already have those relationships with those in the governor's office would be,
the attorney generals would be, and have been working in the state legislature for decades now to promote protections at the local level. I think that we can move forward. There's a lot of space here to continue to build these relationships out in the counties. I grew up on a farm in Weld County, so I know what it is to be a rural voter. And having met with and consulted with the clerks around the state, we can really, really develop that relationship. And I have been doing that, which is why I've already earned the endorsements of several county clerks across Colorado. Also, quickly lifting up that amazing staff at the department to serve the business community and the elections division. Thank you both. Our next question, Jesse, we'll start with you. In your hand. What will you do to combat misinformation and disinformation regarding Colorado's election security?
Thank you. So,
One time I didn't ask if it was on. And thank you. So this is what I mean by a primary task of the Secretary of State's office has to be constant and consistent communication out to the electorate so that folks understand what their rights really are. There is an inundation of misinformation, outright lies, and attempts to steal each and every one of your voting rights. So we are well versed in the attacks, and I am well prepared to combat them. Also, having written the laws that protect voters in Colorado, we've already been through some of that when we had to dispel some of the, folks that weren't quite so confident when we passed the measures. You know, that required working across the aisle, that required working with many different departments, the governor's office, and not to mention 99 different legislators. So I think it's going to be constant defense and constant communication so that folks understand and exercise their rights.
Whew. I have election deniers in my office or in my inbox every single day. I wish I could read you their emails, they're really fun. So here's what I've already done as the clerk and recorder in Jeffco. We created a first of its kind community advisory group that has all different kinds of people. Our youngest member is a teenager, our oldest is in their 80s. And the whole idea is that I might be a great messenger for some folks, but we need great messengers for everyone. And so we have people who can take accurate information about elections out into their communities so that their neighbors and friends actually trust the election. Right? The next thing we did is we hired full-time community engagement staff. Some people feel great about being in a government office, but not everyone does. And so we were out in the community. We were at every high school, every dispensary, every laundromat that would take us, because you have to actually meet people where they are so that they can trust you, build a relationship, and trust our elections. I think I'm out of time, so I'll stop there.
Thank you. Next question, Amanda, we'll start with you. What changes in campaign finance rules would you advocate for?
Government shouldn't make you feel stupid, right? And if you have ever tried to figure out what's going on in campaign finance and who is trying to influence your vote, you feel like you don't have the right college degree for this, right? The Supreme Court has made it really hard to reform campaign finance, right? Citizens United and its progeny are disasters. And the last line of defense that we have is transparency. And if the average person doesn't know where to find the information or how to find it, let alone be able to follow the money, then we have a problem. And we have to make those systems in the Secretary's office much more accessible so that you all can understand who's trying to influence you.
I think that's the key, is transparency. We have heard when we've been out across the state that folks are really frustrated because they're seeing gobs of money coming in from out of state, from out of their counties, wherever it is. It's not the will of the people, it's not what they wish to see, and it's not right. But the power of that money is substantial. So folks have asked me to do what I can when I'm in this new role to increase transparency and to make sure that folks understand who's trying to influence the elections on behalf of whom. And so that's what I think we need to do. Thank you. Keep your microphone. Jesse, you're up. Running elections is the most visible aspect of being the Secretary of State. Please tell us what other aspects of the job you find intriguing.
Well, as I'm, see, sorry.
There. As I'm sure a lot of people in this room know, that the Secretary of State's office also serves the business community as well as the nonprofit community. So while voting rights have been top of mind for folks all across Colorado when we've gone out to listen to them, there's also been great ideas about how the Secretary of State can continue to serve and improve upon the services provided to the business community as well as the nonprofit sector. I chair the Business and Labor Committee in the State Senate, so this has been years and years of lasting relationships with leaders in the business community, but also so understanding the challenges that they face and how we can better serve them. But also, just since the launch of my campaign, we've had business roundtables and we've sat down with small business owners all around the state to say, what are your ideas? And sure enough, we've already collected to-do lists on how to better serve nonprofit and business users. I understand the needs of small businesses because I've been a small business CEO. And when you are running a small business, you are often an HR department of one, a marketing department of one, right? And the Secretary of State's office should be supporting those businesses. It should be as convenient and easy as possible to register your business and make sure that registration stays up to date, right? It shouldn't be confusing. If you need help, you shouldn't only be able to get it between 9 and 5, right? We should be there to help the constituents that need us. So I think that's number one, is making sure that those processes are simple, convenient, as easy reminders. And also the language that you speak shouldn't be a barrier. If English is your second language, it should still be easy and convenient to start and maintain a business. And then finally, we need to do a lot of work on campaign finance reform. I think we've already talked about some of the transparency issues, but really, why doesn't the backward button on Tracer work, right?
All right. Now, you should both keep your microphones on, because this is the rapid fire round. For this round, there is no timer. You'll just be asked to answer yes or no, or use as few words as possible. If you use too many words, we'll let you know. Amanda, let's start with you. Should Colorado require a photo ID in every election?
Photo ID?
Photo ID.
No. We take 16 types of ID, and that is a really important aspect of our system.
No, absolutely not. I love this. Should the Secretary of State publicly campaign for or against ballot measures while in office? I suppose it would depend on the measure.
As the administrator of Jefferson County's elections, I don't take positions on any person or initiative on my ballot. I never want anybody to think that I'm putting a thumb on the scale. I want everyone to trust our elections.
So, Amanda, in a similar vein, should the Secretary of State limit themselves strictly to administering elections rather than advocating for election-related reforms while in office?
The Secretary of State is the democracy defender in chief, and I would have a responsibility to make sure that our elections work for everyone. And to do that, we probably need to have some reforms.
Jesse.
Yeah, I think right now we need to recognize that we're in a very, very dangerous time. And so if necessary, if there's something that we need to do at the state level to protect ourselves and our democracy and your vote, you're going to want the Secretary of State to step up and do something about it. Last question. Jesse, start with you. What's one of the things you are most proud of in your career? I mean, in my time in the Senate, we've passed legislation that has shifted fundamentally the statute in favor of working Coloradans. There's no one in the state that's done more for working people than I have. Equal pay, farm workers, older Coloradans, the Native community, the disability community. I wouldn't have had a chance to do any of these things if I hadn't served the people of the state of Colorado for the last 12 years in the legislature. and my time at America Votes too, because I got to do the bill that established vote centers and vote by mail.
Awesome. Thank you both so much.
Wait,
This
Amanda didn't.
oh, good Lord. Okay. Somebody put a 1 in that column. Okay.
When I came into office in Jeffco, despite the fact that the vast majority of Coloradans who are in a county jail are eligible to vote, Jefferson County has one of the largest jails in the state because we're one of the largest counties. And despite the fact that there were at least 850 eligible voters, I found out that the year I got elected, only 3 were actually able to cast a ballot. I told you earlier that I'm going to be the first Latina Secretary of State, and so I know that there is a big difference between having the right to vote and actually being able to cast your ballot. So I went to our sheriff and I said, let me put a vote center in your jail. And she said, absolutely not. And so we went and passed a law that required 6 hours of in-person voting in every single county jail. One lobbyist called me and said, well, you're never getting invited to a Jeffco barbecue again. But my tombstone is not going to say, got invited to every political barbecue. My tombstone is going to say, got thousands of voters their ballots that otherwise would not have happened. One of the voters talked to us the day he was voting, 29-year-old Latino guy. He'd never voted before. He didn't know he was eligible. And he said that it made him to stop talking and finishing. But he said that it was one of the top 5 experiences of his life, and it made him feel like he mattered. It's the best thing I've done with my career.
Now, thank you both so much. This ends the Q&A session. Jesse, let's start with you. You will have 1 minute to give your closing statement.
Thank you. Thanks, folks, for your time and attention. I guess I just want to close by saying I'm the candidate in the race with the decades of experience working across the state, different departments, different levels of government, and different communities to get voting rights established and improved upon. I know the law. I'm ready to stand up and defend it. And I will mention some of my endorsements because the work that I've done across the state has produced this amazing coalition around my candidacy, whether it's the Alliance for Retired Americans, the pipe fitters, the plumbers, the carpenters, IATSE, the teachers, the firefighters, the AFL-CIO statewide itself. I have the confidence of community, of labor unions, and people like President Coleman, Assistant Majority Leader Jen Bacon, the City Auditor Tim O'Brien, City Councilors like Sarah Parody and Stacey Gilmore, and I could go on and on. Go to my website to see the rest, to see the momentum behind this campaign. I'd love to earn your support.
Voting rights are the foundation of all other rights. And if we care about clean water or access to healthcare or the ability to afford our rent, we have to protect the right to vote. Okay. I came across a really lovely Dan Savage quote this week.
Bluetooth has disconnected.
I will also be the first.
Audio is connected.
I will also be the first queer woman to ever serve as Colorado's Secretary of State. And so this quote felt really appropriate. Dan Savage was talking about the height of the AIDS epidemic. And he said, we buried our friends in the morning, we fought in the afternoon, and we danced in the evening, because what were we fighting for if it wasn't to dance? And I cannot wait to fight and dance alongside all of you. Amanda Gonzalez, Amanda for Colorado, all over the internet.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's in my mouth. Thank you so much for your Secretary of State community. Thank you. All right, we're going to take 2 minutes to change and get our next set up here. I encourage everybody, because we all sit too much, don't go anywhere, but please feel free to stand up. Just move around a little, because everybody needs to move.
Where do you want me to be? Not sure. This is my mic. That's right. No, I'm if you're gonna really like finish it, you're gonna like just keep that
All right, guys, start heading back. I knew this was going to happen. I was going to lose control of the road. Everybody get back. Everybody get back. Grab your cookie. Get back to your chair.
Who's first? Who's first? This way?
In the back corner. James, everybody, please make sure you get back to your seat. Okay, feels like we still have about a third of the room missing. Okay, everybody ready? Game on. So it was brought to my attention that I did not, which makes the second mistake, introduce them as the candidates for Secretary of State at first. So I'm going to rectify that this time by saying these are our candidates for Colorado State Treasurer.
Thank you.
Okay. No, I have to introduce you. No, you have the rules. Everybody knows, right? 2-minute opening, 1-minute close, a minute for the questions in between. Jeff Bridges, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Yeah, you're on camera. Yes.
Excellent. Colorado dollars for Colorado. Sorry, that is why I am running for state treasurer, to invest your dollars here into the state, to make housing more affordable, to invest in infrastructure that creates and keeps good paying jobs in this state, and for renewable energy, to lower your bills while fighting global warming. I'm State Senator Jeff Bridges. I grew up here in Colorado. I have a master's degree in divinity, and I am a member of Colorado's budget committee. Yes, how do those go together? So I have always said the budget is a moral document that puts in black and white, dollars and cents, exactly what we value and how much we value it. And the same is true for our investments, because where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And the state treasurer is essentially the chief investment officer for the state of Colorado, in charge of billions of dollars of funds across all of Colorado. And right now, those dollars are in Wall Street. They are in Washington. They are in mortgage-backed securities from Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. And that is not helping the people of Colorado. We have an affordability crisis in the state. We are under assault by Trump and Tabor, and we have the resources that we need in the treasurer's office to fight back. We can invest in Colorado companies instead of in Wall Street. Instead of Washington, we can partner with our cities and our counties and build the infrastructure that we need here in the state. We can partner with Excel Energy to build renewable energy. And the most important thing we can do is we can partner with folks like the Colorado Finance Housing Authority. We can partner with local housing authorities to build the homes that working people in the state can actually afford. We have the ability to do this. I've been on the budget committee 4 years. I've been in the legislature for 10. I know all the financial levers there are to pull and all the places that we have to put those dollars to work right away. I am running for this office to make housing more affordable, to invest those Colorado dollars here in Colorado, and I would love to have your support.
Thank you, Jeff. John, hang on 1 second. Emily, the clock's not.
Yeah.
The clock did not go.
I was
But
trying really hard to like stay
I was
there.
impressed.
You
Just, like,
it's
do
pretty
the-
good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you were only overshot by like 5 seconds.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Okay.
let me just reset it very quickly. Thank you.
Audio has disconnected.
Emily, if I'm watching the clock, is it
Audio is connected.
okay to start?
We are ready now.
Excellent.
Whenever you're
John Nickus.
Let's go. Well, thank you very much. My name is John Mickus, and I am a grassroots progressive Democrat with lots of management experience. I'm a retired Army officer. I have degrees in economics and in finance. And as treasurer, I will make investments here in Colorado. We will leverage our portfolio funds to build urgently needed infrastructure, including affordable housing. And these infrastructure investments will become catalysts for good paying jobs in the trades. And as we build this infrastructure, we need to make sure that our brothers and our sisters in labor unions are at the table. I am a strong supporter of the Worker Protection Act. I also support public education. Public dollars should not be used to pay for private schools. Public education is be funded by public dollars. I will stand up against schemes, voucher schemes to use public dollars to pay for private schools. And we also should not be holding our public funds in big Wall Street banks. Instead, I have a great idea. It's not a new idea. It's been done in many other places. We need to establish here in Colorado a public bank. A bank that is owned by the people through their representative government, so that we can make sure that our banking is recirculated here, working with local community banks and nonprofit credit unions to drive small business development, particularly in communities that have been historically underserved by capital. Finally, I will use the bully pulpit of the Treasurer's Office to dismantle Tabor. Tabor is wrecking state finances. And we need to start by getting rid of this flat income tax in Colorado and having a graduated income tax. The folks in the very highest bracket ought to be paying their fair share. Again, my name is John Nickus. I'm running for Colorado State Treasurer. I ask for your support. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody.
There we go. There we go. Hi, everyone. I'm Brianna Tatone. I'm state representative in House District 27. This is my 8th year and final year in the House, and I'm running for state treasurer because I'm a public servant with years of experience in the state house working for the people. I'm a grassroots candidate. I have always listened to the people and earned trust to win my races, and I want to continue to earn your trust to win the race of state treasurer. The state treasurer is more than just someone who manages the money in the state. This is his position that has a lot of different opportunities for ideas. And as a scientist, I have a lot of different ideas, and that's why I've been so successful in the legislature passing many bills that have been first in the nation. Because I see things a little bit differently than most people do. When they see problems without solutions, I see the solutions that they can't. What we can do in this office is create new opportunities for people. I have some ideas that I'd like to work on, including getting the unclaimed property trust fund money back to people in a more efficient way. The treasurer currently has been doing some things on that and modernizing the process, but we can do even more. And as the chair of the Joint Technology Committee, this is something I've been working on as technology for a long time. I have a degree in this. And we can work using the My Colorado app to get people's money back. We need to protect the Unclaimed Property Trust Fund from the legislature because that is your money. That is not the people's money. That is your money. I think we can do a program for student loan repayment. People are suffering right now with high payments of loans. They're not getting the relief that the federal government used to do. We can do this by lowering interest rates for people who have student loans. Put money back in their pockets right now. We have an affordability problem. That money can be spent here in Colorado. And I think that we can do some more in financial literacy. This is something that when we have a tough time and finances are difficult, having people have the information to empower themselves to do better is something that we can do for very little money and have a big impact on the public.
Thank you, Brianna.
Is that 2 minutes?
It
right?
is.
2 minutes.
My goodness, I was like,
Yeah,
no timer.
I know.
So, thank you.
Pulling up a different timer.
So Emily, just checking, so should they just keep glancing?
Yeah, we will get a timer up on the screen and
Okay.
show that to you because the clock that we've used for countless events is no longer working.
It gave up the ghost. Okay, so don't take it personally. So we now go into the questions. Jeff, we'll start with you first on this. But what would you do to ensure the future of para?
Great question. So on the budget committee over the last 4 years, we have prioritized para really above all of the other challenges that we have had. We had to cut $1 billion last year, and we did it when I was chair of the budget committee. We did it while still increasing funding for higher ed, for K-12, for Medicaid, for public lands, for public safety, and fully committing to para, fulfilling that commitment. One of the other things we did last year was the way that we complied with the proposition that required us to fund police across the state is that we put $500 million of the state's reserve into para. What that means is moving forward, even in the worst budget year, even in the darkest of days, there is money in para that is there to take care of the state's obligation to make sure that we keep para whole. The treasurer is a member of the para board, ex officio member of the board. We need to make sure, number one, most importantly, that para is fully funded. We are on a sustainable path right now. We need to keep that path going. And we need to make sure that we are taking care of the folks that depend on para for their retirement. There are counties in the state where more than half of the folks in that county, their only income is para. This is a promise that we make to state employees. Oh, the clock's working now, and now I see I'm over. It's a promise we make to state employees. They don't get Social Security, they only get para. We have to keep that promise.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, para is fundamentally important, and it's a core responsibility of the treasurer to be the advocate for para in government. With all of the competing priorities, it's paramount that we meet our obligations that we made to our civil servant workers and our educators. The treasurer does sit as one voting member of the para board. I believe a couple of things need to be top priority to make sure we're preserving that system. First of all, a strong advocacy to make sure that it's fully funded. Right now, para has unfunded liabilities. If you're a current para recipient, no need to worry, but we have to think about the long-term viability. And particularly when we think about the fact that our public school teachers right now are turning over at a rate of 1 in 5. And that's because we're not paying our teachers at an efficiency wage. And if we ever don't meet that obligation, what are we going to do to attract good teachers to this state? Para is the top priority for the treasurer's office as far as I'm concerned, and it will be something that I will work very hard to make sure it maintains full funding way into the future.
Thank you. Brianna?
Yeah, thank you. I think that one of the big things that we can do is make sure that we keep an eye on what the legislature's doing, so they don't pass any bills that can get us off track to the full funding that we need to get to. The other thing is that we need to get more people paying into para. The more people we have paying in, the closer we'll get and the faster we'll get to full funding. There are a lot of loopholes and things that are being done right now that a lot of the organizations are doing to prevent those employees from paying in because they don't want to pay the full price of that employee with that benefit. And I think the mic just cut out because of whatever he just did. But I'll just speak loudly.
You know what? Can you go ahead and mic, please?
There we go. I don't know if that one works. Does that one work? No, they both don't work. So I'll just speak loudly. So, does it work now?
Yes.
All right, now.
Yes.
Okay. So when we have more people paying into para, stopping the loopholes and getting those people to actually pay in, not through the contract work, but being a full-time person working for the organization, paying into para, that is how we get a strong retirement system, when we have more people paying in. So that is how I think that we're going to get to the future.
Thank you. Our next question, John, we're going to start with you. Over 18% of the U.S. households are underbanked or unbanked, and this figure is even higher for households of ethnic minorities. These communities are often, taken advantage of by payday lenders, charging exorbitant rates for their services. As treasurer, are there any public banking initiatives you would propose as an alternative to these?
Absolutely. I've long been a strong advocate of the concept of public banking. And, what is a public bank? A public bank is a bank that's owned by the people through its representative government. So basically, we would be depositing our public dollars in a public bank that would work through a network of local community banks and nonprofit credit unions to help drive local economic development. And that's the right platform to help unbanked people. And there are models in Europe, the postal banks in Germany, the Sparkasses in Germany, the Nordic models of making sure that we can have a fully banked population. And that needs to be complemented with financial literacy. Too many people in our country, not just young people, don't have the necessary understanding of basic financial and ledger principles. And it's government's responsibility, and the treasurer is the bully pulpit of that, to advance financial literacy as a counter to predatory lending practices. That's what I would do as your next state treasurer.
Thank you. Brianna?
Yeah, I think that, John has really touched on a bunch of things, and I've also done that already. Financial literacy is a major thing that we can do to avoid people having scams and all of these problems that we're having. But I think that also the program of having a student loan repayment program is something that really could be a public bank. Now, I've been in the legislature long enough to know that if you start using the word public bank around the legislature, people who are in the banking industry start getting very nervous. And to actually do a public bank the way that North Dakota does, that would be a very, very difficult lift for the legislature to do. If I could get the legislature to do that, we will do that. We will work to try to chip away at it. And I think using credit unions and having more ways of people lending that's not just with the big banks is a way that we can actually start to erode that the big bank situation where we have to always put money in the big banks. But doing a public bank, there's only one state that's ever done it. We can chip away and do a few things to get us there, and we can start with the simplest things and work our way out, because the lobbyists are very hard to get around down there.
John?
Yeah.
It's not just the lobbyists, it's the Constitution. The public bank in Colorado is currently unconstitutional. It would require a change to the Constitution That is a fight that will take years for us to do. I think the most important change we need to make right now in the Constitution is Tabor. That is where I would focus my energy and efforts. I'd also say that when we're talking about folks that are unbanked, that have a distrusting relationship with financial institutions, that saying, well, we're from the government, you can trust us, you can bank with us, isn't necessarily the most convincing argument. There are folks in community working to get these folks banked, working on ways that they can invest in, have savings accounts, have checking accounts, not have payday lenders. I was proud to be a co-sponsor of the bill that reined in payday lending here in the state. You'll notice we used to have a whole lot of them. That is a business model that is not profitable in this state anymore, thanks to the bills that we've passed. I also have passed every single financial literacy requirement that has passed in the state over the last 10 years. I have been a prime sponsor of that bill. I've been a prime driver of that bill. And in the Treasurer's office, I will continue to fight. There are actually only 3 things in legislation that are required to be taught in high schools: civics, something about the Holocaust, and now, after last year in the bill I ran, financial literacy.
Thank you. Brianna, we'll start with you. What policies of the current treasurer are you planning to continue if elected? What current policies would you want to change?
Well, I think that a policy that has changed, the general wanted the property tax deferral system to stick around. It was actually created in the budget committee, and when we were cutting the budget, they cut that program, and I tried to keep it around in the House by reducing the amount and finding different ways to pay for it, and I lost that by 1 vote. And there's a lot of people across the state that are going to be not able to pay their property tax because this program is not available in all those counties. And that was something that the budget committee took away. And I think we should bring that back. There's a lot of these counties can't afford to do that, and they're not able to, so we should do it as a state. I think that the Unclaimed Property Trust Fund is something that Dave's been working on very closely, and I think that there's a lot more we can do there as well, because we have to get money back. There's $2 billion that the legislature keeps trying to take, and we want to get it back to the people who are the owners of that money, and not use it as a piggy bank, which has been happening quite a bit.
Jeff?
Thank you. The reason we eliminated that program was it was costing us $3 million a year. It's called the Property Tax Deferral Program. It was costing us $3 million a year. It was benefiting fewer than 200 people. That math doesn't work. I'm running for treasurer. There's a lot of math involved in that. $3 million a year so that 200 people can defer their property taxes. We could have taken 1 year of that payment and paid off everything they owed on their property taxes. And instead, we were year over year paying a software company to prop this program up. Instead, what we did is we pushed it back to the counties where it started. The people that are currently on that didn't get left behind. They got picked up by the counties. I think that is exactly the kind of program that we need to be cutting. The thing that we need to keep going is the Secure Savings Program. Here in Colorado, I ran the bill to create Colorado Secure Savings Program. And what it does is for everyone, every employee in the state whose company doesn't offer them a retirement program is required to offer their employees an IRA program that they can buy into that automatically comes from their paycheck. It's opt-out, not opt-in, so more people will do it. This will help every Coloradan retire with dignity. Dave has done a great job with this program. We're going to keep it up.
Thank you. I am also a great admirer of Treasurer Young and look to build upon the good work that he's done in secure savings, in unclaimed property, and in other areas. One area that I would additionally focus on, the Treasurer, in addition to working on state government financing, also has statutory authority to assist local governments when they request it. I will especially be looking to orient the Treasurer's office to work with school districts who are working through putting forth bonding issues, the referendums, and basically getting them ready to place their bonds. making sure that they're credit worthy, just as if you were to buy a new house, you'd want to make sure your credit rating is where it wants to be. We run something, the treasurer runs something called the School Bond Intercept Program, and we can do a lot with that to help school bonding. And also, I will use the bully pulpit of the office to actually advocate for investments in public education at the local level to help some of these school bonds get passed locally.
Thank you. Jeff, we're back to starting with you. What specific principles guide your approach to long-term fiscal stewardship, and how will you apply them when making investment or debt management decisions for the state?
It's a great question because the first and most important priority for the state treasurer is that when state employees cash their paychecks, those checks don't bounce. That when the checks go out to nonprofit partners at the community for grant programs, that those checks don't bounce. That being said, the treasury pool is sort of this vacuous space, this rotating fund, where between when you pay your taxes and when those checks are cashed, money just lives in that treasury pool. At the height of COVID, there was still $8 billion in that fund. So that's sort of the lowest that fund ever gets, $8 billion. And where is that $8 billion? It's in Wall Street. It's in Washington. It's in Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae helping folks in Florida and Ohio and Texas own homes. We have $8 billion in that fund. We start small. We don't do it all at once. But those dollars should be working for the people of Colorado. They shouldn't be working for Wall Street. They shouldn't be working for Washington. They should be working for you. And that is what will guide my investment decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll always follow good principles of public finance investing, and those are basically security, liquidity, and yield. We don't put all our eggs in one basket, and we make sure that we're investing in a way that gets a good, solid, secure return on that working capital that sits in the treasury for the time being, until it's waited to be needed to pay for something that the legislature appropriated. But I believe that we have a rich and diverse state with lots of economic opportunity, and we can wisely and safely and fully invest here in Colorado. I also believe very strongly that public banking is a viable tool in the toolkit to do that. I respectfully disagree. I don't believe that there is a uniform legal view amongst all legal professionals that there is a constitutional provision. Many do believe that there is statutory authority to establish a public bank here in Colorado like there is in North Dakota. Thank you.
There we go. The treasurer is a fiduciary, and that's where I really feel that that's the key, right? You want to work for the people and their best interest. When I was the president of my HOA, we had a financial situation. I have a bill this year that's going to help all of the new HOAs to not get into the situation we were in. And that was not having enough money for the future. That is the key, is actually making the smart decisions and asking the questions that are going to get us there. And as a scientist, I know how to ask the right questions. That's how I've been successful in the legislature. I said in my HOA, can we pay our insurance in one lump sum and save money? Yes, we can save 10%. We bought our insurance up front and saved ourselves $5,000 a year. Just because I asked a question that nobody else had asked before. Sometimes it's that simple. But these are the opportunities we have to take. Every chance we can get is to ask the questions as out there as they might be, because we can find those solutions that we have not been able to find yet. That's what we need to do when it comes to investing in our state, and there's a lot of opportunities to invest in our state. I agree we should not put our eggs in one basket. We have to be diverse, but we also have to make sure we're investing where the people's values are, and that's something that I would also like to do.
John, starting with you. There is the possibility we will be voting in November on a proposal to change the current Colorado tax structure to a graduated tax model. Are you in favor of a graduated tax plan, and why or why not?
Is this a 1 minute answer?
It's a 1 minute.
Yeah. I am strongly in favor. I am strongly in favor of getting rid of the flat tax that we have in Colorado, which has been locked in, effectively locked in by CABR, and having a graduated income tax. The very highest income bracket folks ought to be paying their fair share, particularly given what just the tax breaks that just happened in that big ugly bill. And the wealthiest amongst us can afford to pay their fair share so that we can properly fund things like a huge deficit in infrastructure across our state, that we can properly fund things like public education. Not only am I in favor of it, as a candidate, I will run on it should that be on the ballot.
Yeah, I agree 100%. This is something that is essential for us to get out of the mess that we're in. Tabor has been the bane of our existence, and we've been able to be creative and get out of the situations and keep the engine running, but we're running out of options because the federal government is really making it hard for us. The only way that we are going to be able to get out of this mess is to actually get the funds in the door to actually fund the things we have to fund. We're cutting from everywhere, and we're leaving no one off the table. The only way we can do it is to have more funds available, and we can tax the people who make the most. They do this in many other states, and it is a way for us to get money in the door and give some relief for people who make less. It is much fairer to do this, and that is something that I will always be an advocate of until the very end.
Thank you.
You just say yes.
Yes. Sorry, Jeff.
My day is going to the budget committee and choosing between cutting funds for kids with disabilities and kids in public schools. That's my day. We have $1 billion that we have to cut from our budget this year because of Tabor. We had to cut $1 billion over the summer because of Trump. The one small victory we had there is that I ran the bill restoring funding for Planned Parenthood. I'm very proud of that, but we don't have the resources that we need to fight back. One of the ways we get those resources in the state budget is through a graduated income tax. Another way we do it is by fighting back against Tabor. I am working very closely with CEA, Colorado Education Association, teachers across the state, on a measure to raise our Tabor rationing limit by what we spend on education. That's a $4.5 billion increase to the Tabor cap that will be on your ballots this coming November. If we can fix Tabor, if we can fix our tax code, then we actually have a financial future here in the state.
Thank you, Free. We're now entering the rapid fire part of this. There's no timer, but you'll be asked to answer either yes or no, or in as few words as possible. Brianna, we'll start with you. Should Colorado fully divest public funds from fossil fuel companies?
Yes, I think so. I think we have to make the bold move to combat climate change.
Yes, when I was Associate VP at Union Theological Seminary in New York, I led the campaign to divest from fossil fuels. We'll do it again here.
Yes, that should be our goal, absolutely.
I don't think you were on.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Third time's the charm. Jeff, you'll start on this one. Should maximizing financial returns ever take precedence over advancing Colorado's climate and social goals?
No, especially because the returns that we earn in the Treasury pool have to be refunded as Tabor refunds anyway, so what's the point?
I believe that's correct, but I furthermore believe that that's a false.
Microphone.
I didn't do it. That's okay. That is a false choice. we can get market returns on a portfolio equal to the returns that we would get if we included fossil fuels, and that has been demonstrated by fund managers across the country. So it is a false dichotomy that we need to disavow people of that.
Y'all are looking at me like I wrote those questions. Just saying. Okay.
Wait,
Nope. Jeff, we'll start.
Brianna didn't answer.
Yeah. Should Colorado fully divest public funds from fossil fuel companies?
No.
Should maximizing financial returns ever take precedence over advancing Colorado's climate and social goals?
No, we can find plenty of things that we can invest in that give us good return.
Ready? Okay. John. Should the treasurer refuse to invest state funds in companies that manufacture or sell assault weapons?
I would like to say, no, we should not. And I believe we should not be investing in companies that are investing in street assault arms. It's a question I haven't had before, and I'll reflect on it more, but my initial answer is no, we shouldn't be making those investments.
No, we should. There's a lot of places we can invest that can give us returns that don't kill people.
We don't need to be in those companies to make a good return.
Brianna, let's start with you. What are you most proud of in your career? We need a sentence, not a big story.
I'm probably most proud of the fact that the right to repair in Colorado is the best in the entire country from the work that I've done to beat the biggest corporations on the planet.
Fully funded, full-day kindergarten, the first and only in the country middle-income housing tax authority and middle-income housing tax credit, and the most progressive paid sick leave policy in the entire country. My bills.
I am most proud. I am most proud of my military service. I am most proud of my military service. I enlisted in the United States Army as a young man when I was 20 years old. It shaped me. It gave me the opportunity to travel the world and work in something that was really bigger than myself. So that is probably, in my professional career, the thing that I'm most proud of.
Okay. This ends our Q&A session. We will now move to 1-minute closing statements, starting with Jeff.
I did the other. Okay, look, I'm not going to say no.
I just keep taking turns.
That's fine.
Colorado dollars for Colorado. If you take nothing else away from this, take that. That is why I am running for treasurer, to put your dollars to work here in the state. Colorado dollars for Colorado. I've been in the legislature 10 years. I've been on the budget committee the last 4. The challenges that we have right now because of Trump, because of Tabor, it is an impossible situation. Blue skies are ahead in the treasurer's office. If we change the way that we invest, if we take these billions of dollars that are in Wall Street and in Washington and instead put them to work here in Colorado on Main Street, building homes that nurses, teachers, and firefighters can afford, that your kids who are leaving the state because they can't afford to live here can afford, we can invest in renewable energy that's going to lower your utility bills and fight global warming. There is a huge difference that we can make for this state if we just think a little bit differently about how we invest. I'm grateful to have support from every labor union so far that has endorsed in this race, from plumbers to pipe fitters to the teachers union. I've got former Treasurer Kerry Kennedy. There's a lot of great folks who have supported me, but the most important people to support me are all of you. I hope you will be with me. My cell phone number is on my website, 303-358-5551, if you were writing fast. Call, text anytime if you have any other questions. It's right there at the top. Thanks.
I think it's on. Is it Okay, fantastic. Thank you. You're welcome. Listen, I am running. I'd like to sum up. Thanks. Thank you. I'm running out of commitment to service. Service is a big part of my upbringing. My mother was a social worker. She founded soup kitchens and a homeless shelter for women. All four of my sisters are educators. As I mentioned, I joined the Army to pay for college. And I was able to use my GI Bill benefits to get an economics degree and an MBA in finance and pursue a second career in management consulting. I taught economics at a graduate business school. I've been in financial management software for a number of years, and I'm retiring from that second career. And I've always had a lifelong desire to serve. And I looked hard when I decided to run on what I thought I could do really well. And I landed on this job of Colorado State Treasurer. So I'm not running for this because I don't want to run for something. This is what I want to focus on. It's where I believe I can have the greatest impact, positive impact on the lives of people in my community. And that's why I'm asking for your support. My name is John Mickus. I'm running for Colorado State Treasurer. JohnMickus.com. Please become a delegate to the State Assembly on March 28th in Pueblo, Colorado, and support me there to help me get on the primary ballot. Thank you.
There we go. I have earned everything that I have gotten in politics. I grew up in a humble upbringing from parents who were tax collectors, and my dad was a union leader. I was a volunteer firefighter when I was 16. My public service goes deep in my veins. And because of that, this is my commitment to public service. This is not just about a job that we have very competent candidates here, but this job requires courage. Every elected office requires us to be courageous in this political environment. As a trans person, as the only trans person who's openly transitioned in the entire legislature, and one of the first in the entire country in this political climate, I possess that courage. And I have stood up against the biggest corporations, and I have been continuing to stand up to them, fighting for AI regulation, despite all the money that they're going to pour down on me. Because this is the time when we have to rise to the moment and be courageous to fight for the people, because we may not have a country to fight for if we don't make the right decisions right now. This is a very pivotal election. The people who you choose in the caucus, and I am running in the caucus, are going to determine where we go from here. And you possess that opportunity to make that choice, and I hope that you will choose me for this office so we can fight back. Thank you. My name is Brianna Tone.
Y'all, these are our candidates for Colorado State. Y'all did a great job considering that you had a lot going on over in that corner. So thank you.
We got it sorted
Thank
out.
Thank you. All right, guys, we're going to take another quick break. Don't wander too far. If our next candidates can make it to the stage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great work. Thank you. Yeah, good seeing you. Good work with the time. Yes, thank you.
Almost there. It's good, so we didn't know if you wanted that flag. Yeah, get back here. I don't want to mess around with that.
All right, folks, as you are finding your seats, I would like to make a quick announcement. So we'll get started with our third and final panel in just a moment. I will be. All right, folks. So what I'm going to ask you to do before we get started with our final panel is please take out your cell phone, calendar, whatever you do to mark very important dates. And you are going to mark Tuesday, March 3rd. Tuesday, March 3rd is your precinct caucus. That is what you have heard all of our candidates mention. That is a very important date. We are mostly made up of House Districts 1 and 2 here tonight. If you're in House District 2, you'll be caucusing at Henry Middle School. If you're in House District 1, you'll be caucusing at Henry Middle School. House District 2 will be caucusing at South High School. So mark that date. That is when you get the chance to support these candidates that you've been hearing from tonight. That is how you can become a delegate to county and state assembly, and that is how you can be the party insider that gets to make all the decisions. So, Tuesday, March 3rd, write it down. Okay, everybody, we're getting back. Hello, those of you who are chatting around the edges, if you could find your seats, that would be lovely. All right, guys, this is our last group, and these are your candidates for Colorado Attorney General. We're going to start with 2-minute opening statements, and then we'll move into a Q&A. So, Huddle, Doshi, you go first.
Is this on? Is it on now?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Hetal Doshi. I have spent the majority of my 20 years as a working lawyer working for the Department of Justice, where I prosecuted, amongst other things, public corruption crimes. And so I have not historically been allowed to be in spaces like this here tonight. That all changed a year ago when I resigned from the Department of Justice. I am a first-generation American and the proud daughter of 2 immigrants. I moved around a lot as a child growing up, but grew up primarily in Alabama, 80 miles from Selma. As you might imagine, with a name like Hetal Doshi and this brown face, growing up in the cradle of the civil rights movement was, in fact, transformative. It shaped who I am, and it fundamentally led me to the law. I am a champion for working families, in part because I know that story personally. As a kid, I spent my childhood negotiating power bills and medical bills on behalf of my family, so I know what it's like to be up against the kind of power and resources that riddle our society today. I will share with you that that's what led me to the practice of law. And so as a federal prosecutor here in Colorado, I traveled to the 4 corners of the state to take on scammers, corporate executives, and other people, corrupt public officials who cheated Coloradans. And I recovered billions of dollars for the people here in Colorado and across the country. At the beginning of the Biden-Harris administration, I had the honor to be selected to be the top antitrust litigator for the Department of Justice. And in that role, I fought for workers, for farmers, for small businesses and other organizations. I got to lead a staff of 800 lawyers and public servants as we took on the most history-making cases against Google, Apple, Ticketmaster, against corporate landlords that use algorithms to jack up our rent. And I also had the opportunity and privilege to block a number of mergers that would make our lives more expensive. I share this with you to say that we are in an inflection point in our country in this moment. And so today, families are continuing to have to make that hard choice between being able to afford food, housing, or healthcare, not all of the above. And at the same time, we also know that Trump is coming for Colorado. We know that Trump is coming for our funding, for our land, for our rights, for our election, and our way of life. And he's also sending a militarized army of ICE agents into our streets, and when Americans try to get in the way, their birth certificates don't stand in the way. And so I'm here because I'm not going to let that happen. I'd be honored to have your support.
Thank you. Michael?
Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Doherty. I'm the district attorney and candidate for Attorney General of Colorado. We are going to take back the House this fall, and we're going to hold Trump accountable under the law. But we have to recognize we are living through a truly scary time for our country. We are living through the greatest threat to our democracy in my lifetime. And right now, the lawless Trump administration continues to violate the rule of law, the Constitution, and people's rights all across this country and across the globe. There's no denying that that's happening. And we need someone who's going to stand and fight for justice and the rule of law and has the experience and ability to do exactly that. That's why I'm running for Attorney General of Colorado. Colorado needs a progressive fighter with a proven track record of securing justice and defending the rule of law for our state. A prosecutor for social justice, economic justice, environmental justice, criminal justice, and racial justice. And most importantly, Colorado needs someone with real experience in the courtroom and real experience as a leader of large law offices and integrity. The moment calls for it. I have a proven track record of fighting for justice and the rule of law. I started my career at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and I served there for 13 years. And I specialized in sex crimes and homicide cases. And I moved up through the ranks, and I ended up being in a position of leadership over 1,300 staff. When I moved to Colorado, I became the Deputy Attorney General for the Colorado Attorney General's Office. I'm the one candidate who's been a lawyer and a leader in the Attorney General's Office. And I've handled and prosecuted consequential cases here in Colorado, such as the King Soopers mass shooting and the Pearl Street firebombing, a horrific hate crime committed against members of our community. It is my honor to fight for justice and the rule of law. And as your next Attorney General, that's exactly what I'm going to do. My priorities are clear. Public safety, standing up and fighting against the Trump administration, consumer protection and affordability, our environment and our water, and making sure that we stop illegal actions by ICE. That's the kind of work I've done in holding police officers and politicians responsible when they violated the law. I promise you, I will hold ICE fully accountable under the law here in Colorado. I'm committed to it. I'm Michael Dougherty. I'm running for Attorney General because I'm going to fight for justice, the rule of law, and our democracy on day one. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenna?
Good evening, Denver Democrats. Are you guys ready to win in 26?
Yes.
Are you ready to fight back?
Yes.
Good. I'm Jenna Griswold, Colorado Secretary of State, and we are seeing Donald Trump break the law and undermine the Constitution on a near daily basis. We have to fight back. Now is the time. I have taken on Trump and MAGA extremists now for 7 years, and I'm just getting started. I'm running for Attorney General to protect our country, to protect our state, and to protect our freedoms. Right now, as we speak, Trump's DOJ is suing me for refusing to hand over your voter data. We have to hold the line. As Secretary of State, I protected our democracy and our elections. In my first year, I led the largest voter reforms in the entire country. We passed automatic voter registration, guaranteed access on public universities and on tribal lands. And then Trump started to incite the insurrection, try to destabilize our elections, and I've held strong. I addressed the nation's first public election insider's threat in Mesa County, when Tina Peters compromised her voting equipment and made sure she was removed from oversight of her elections and held accountable. I acted as election officials were threatened, passing new laws to make sure they were safeguarded. We argued at the Supreme Court that Trump should have been removed from the ballot in Colorado for the presidency because he was an oath-breaking insurrectionist. As Attorney General, I'm going to stand up and hold the line. That means protecting us from the Trump administration. That means protecting Colorado's workers from the billionaires and corporations who steal or break the law and take their wages and commit other abuses. That means standing up for public safety. For me, that means getting an assault weapons ban passed immediately. We need to save lives. It means that when we have a 2-year lag in testing rape kits, we do something about it. And it absolutely means taking on any federal agent that would break the law. I will absolutely prosecute any ICE agent that commits a crime here in the state of Colorado. Look forward to the conversation. And with those 2 minutes, I'll pass it on to David.
Good evening, everybody. My name is David Seligman. I'm a workers' rights, civil rights, and anti-monopoly lawyer, the executive director of a nonprofit towards justice. I'm the father of 3 little girls. I have not lived my life to run for office, but I'm running for Attorney General because, like many of you, I'm fed up with a system where the elite play by a different set of rules. And that system has given rise to this moment of crisis. The face of the crisis is the President of the United States. We're going to have to use the law boldly and courageously to hold him accountable and hold accountable the corruption that surrounds him. Yes, that means prosecuting ICE agents when they trample our rights, and the oligarchs bribing this administration, building his ballroom for their own profits. I'll do that as Attorney General. But it also means going after the rigged, 2-tiered justice system that gave rise to Donald Trump. Look, at the inauguration, Jeff Bezos, $250 billion in his pocket, stood behind the president. Meanwhile, my clients, Amazon delivery drivers across Colorado, are forced to urinate in bottles in order to stay on task to meet his impossible quotas while he crushes their unions. And we've got companies like Suncor polluting the air, making families sick, and they're getting away with it. But here's what the elite don't want you to know. The laws on the books that promise to hold the powerful accountable and protect the powerless, we don't need permission to use them. We just need someone willing to enforce them with courage and creativity. And that's what I've done my entire career. I'm the guy on the stage who represents rideshare drivers and renters buried in junk fees and working families drowning in medical debt. I've sued the Trump administration and won. I've sued the Polis administration and won. We just sued the governor and stopped him from turning over Coloradans' personal information to ICE. Because this fight is not about the blue team versus the red team. It's about the many versus the money. You deserve an attorney general who will go on offense every single day on behalf of working families. That's exactly what I'll do.
So we're going into our questions. You'll have 1 minute. Petal, we're going to start with you. What policies or initiatives of the current Attorney General are you planning to continue if elected? What current policies would you prefer to change?
Thanks for that question. So on the continue bucket, I think that General Weiser has done a really excellent job of showing discernment and fighting the administration when the administration has violated the laws, and that violation of laws has hurt Coloradans. And so there are 51 or 52 lawsuits pending, and I think that those lawsuits are all righteous, and I think that it's important to continue them. An area of change or departure, I suppose, between the current administration and what I would be looking to do is really a function of the fact that the world has changed in the last year. And so there are 2 areas that I think that are really, really important, or actually 3 areas that I would emphasize that haven't gotten as much emphasis. First, it's healthcare, in terms of standing up a healthcare task force to deal with the consolidation of the healthcare industry. Second, making sure that Colorado fills the void on environmental protections and environmental challenges, particularly as they relate to renewable energy and forever chemicals and emission standards. And then the third area is that we've seen a massive retrenchment from the federal government in not going after corporate crime and white-collar crime and antitrust crimes. Those are all areas that I have spent the majority of my career doing, so what you're going to get from me is an increased emphasis on that and capacity building, because for me, that there's a track record, those aren't just promises.
Michael?
So there's a long list of things Phil Weiser's done well. I think Phil has been an outstanding Attorney General. Do you agree with me? And I'm going to follow in his footsteps without missing a beat, and from day one, hold the Trump administration accountable. That requires experience as a lawyer and a leader in taking Trump to court and winning those fights. It's not enough to say we argued in court. The argument has to end with us winning in court. That's critically important for the next Attorney General. I'm going to continue Phil's good work in that regard. Also, Phil Weiser's done a lot in standing up and fighting for the working class and for tenants. So for example, 2 years ago, Phil Weiser and my office teamed up to bring the first of its kind action against a realty company that was stealing security deposits and using hidden and deceptive fees. And Phil's team and my office secured a $1 million settlement for all the tenants who were victimized. I'm going to continue that work. But we need a conviction integrity unit out of the AG's office to look into claims of wrongful conviction. We also need a labor unit that's going to stand up and fight for our workers, and I'm going to start both of those things. Thank you.
I think most of us would agree that Phil is doing a really good job taking on the Trump administration. Over 50 lawsuits, it's exactly what the state should be doing. We cannot compromise with the Trump administration. We need to enforce the law anytime they break it. So I will absolutely continue to do that. I think an area of recent development from the AG's office is the AG's office recently launched a reporting system for Coloradans to report abuse by federal agents or ICE. That is absolutely necessary. Democracy cannot work with men in masks playing Rambo, stomping on our constitutional rights, committing crimes, and executing people in broad daylight. It cannot work. So we do have to enforce the law. Having a badge doesn't mean the Constitution doesn't apply to you, so I will absolutely continue that program. You know, I will share with you guys, before you today, I have $220,000 of outstanding student debt. I grew up on food stamps. I grew up going to food banks. It's not empathy, understanding how people struggle. It's been my lived experience in the past. I'm going to open up an Office of Workers' Rights so that we staff up in the AG's office great attorneys to fight for the middle class.
Thank you. David?
Thanks so much. Phil will leave some big shoes to fill. All right? Dad joke there. We're going to need, in particular, to maintain his aggressive approach to taking on the Trump administration. whenever it harms Colorado and violates our rights. Absolutely every step of the way. Fundamentally, I think we're going to need to do even more, to double down on the office's work to put the law on the side of working people. So my clients shouldn't have to wait years for their corporate landlords to provide them with habitable living conditions, right? We shouldn't have working families in North Denver and Commerce City that are getting sick, their kids getting asthma at higher risk of cancer, right? Because we've got Suncor and other corporate polluters spewing pollutants into the environment. So we're gonna have to do even more to take on those kinds of problems. The Attorney General's office is already has a worker protection unit. I wrote the law that created that unit and gives it the authority to enforce the laws, but we're gonna have to do even more to enforce those laws creatively and boldly. The consumer protection laws, the antitrust laws, and many more to attack corporate union busting. We're also going to have to create an environmental justice enforcement unit independent of the governor.
I've somehow become both timer and moderator.
Yep, you're the chime now.
Ding, ding. Michael, I'd like to start with you. What would you propose to protect Colorado residents? What would you propose to protect Colorado residents from ICE troops? And do you see this as being in the Attorney General's purview?
It is 100% the job of the Attorney General. I'm committed to doing it. And I'm already working on this, doing Know Your Rights trainings all around the state of Colorado. So I have an immigrant protection program in my office, in the district attorney's office, since 2018. We ramped it up after Trump was elected to a second term. And what he's doing right now is exactly what we predicted. It's why we've been doing Know Your Rights trainings in Boulder County for years, but why when I launched the campaign for Attorney General, I started doing them all around the state of Colorado. In the last 24 hours, I've done 2, because people recognize Trump is coming for Colorado. Those Know Your Rights trainings and standing up and fighting for those protections is why I fought to get Senate Bill 276 passed last year, which expanded protections for immigrants in Colorado. As the proud grandson of Irish immigrants who came here for the freedoms and opportunities offered to them then, I'm inspired by their journey and their sacrifice and the need to stand and fight for immigrants today. I promise you I'll hold Trump's ICE agents fully accountable when they break the law. That's what I have done with police officers and politicians who have broken the law, and I'm committed to it. Thank you.
Trump's America is murdering a mom. It's grabbing a 5-year-old off the street and separating families. And it's executing a man in broad daylight and telling all of us not to believe what we saw on video. He is using ICE to terrorize our communities, to try to scare every single one of you, and we have to stand up strongly against it. I will absolutely hold any federal agent accountable for breaking Colorado law or committing a crime. On top of that, Colorado law already prohibits state and local law enforcement from working with immigration officials, and I will make sure to uphold that law. Hours after Border Patrol killed Alex Preddy, hours, Trump's Attorney General sent a letter to Minnesota leadership saying, hey, if you want ICE off your streets, send us your voter data. It's gross. I saw your mouth come open. It's a gross abuse of power. We need to hold the line against these would-be fascists, Donald Trump grabbing power, and every avenue possible. That's why it is so important that states like Colorado do not send over your voter data, that they do enforce the law, and that we do file every single lawsuit possible against the Trump administration. And I'm sorry, this is at a weird angle.
Just over here more. How's that?
Good.
Better.
That's great.
Great.
Look, we have a masked, lawless, white supremacist army that's invading our cities. The stakes could not be higher. We got a call from one of my clients who said that her boss told her that the next time she asks for a paycheck, she'll get a bullet in the head and a call to ICE. We've got ICE agents leaving white supremacist ace of spade cards in Eagle County. We've got to take it on. The Attorney General will have to be the tip of the spear in taking it on. That's why I've said now that we would create an ICE accountability unit in the Attorney General's office to make it clear to ICE officers that they are not above the law, that if they trample our rights, they'll be prosecuted. We also have to take on the contractors participating in the cruelty for their profit, companies like Palantir, right? We're also going to have to hold accountable private detention facility companies, right? Geo Group. I would go down to the Geo Group with a subpoena right now, and I'd say, let me in. We need to make sure that the people in there are being treated in accordance with Colorado law. And finally, we've got a dangerous and concerning trend of sheriffs across the state suggesting that they're going to collaborate with ICE. It's absurdly dangerous. It's unlawful. No one participating in the cruelty of this administration is above the law.
So I guess we're standing up, right? Absolutely. The answer to the question as to whether the Attorney General has a role with respect to holding federal agents accountable, the answer is yes. The Attorney General for the state of Colorado is the state's top law enforcement officer. And it is, to state the obvious, against the law what this administration is doing. I will tell you that every day that I leave my house, I have a decision to make as the person that I introduce myself as, a brown woman with a funny name, and as an immigrant, as the daughter of an immigrant, first generation American. And that decision is whether I'm going to carry my passport with me that day. And I am also the person who gets phone calls from my family members asking that same question. And I say to them, there's the practical answer, and then there's the answer that loves America. The practical answer is you should carry that passport. The answer for someone who loves America is hell no. We don't live in a country that requires us to show our papers. The Attorney General for the state of Colorado has a critical role to play in holding this administration to account, and that role is a role that will be borne out in the courtroom. And so it's not enough to make political platitudes or speeches. It's about using the laws, and by the way, there are several, to hold this administration accountable in a way that they understand that Colorado means business.
Thank you. Jenna, we're going to start with you on this one. What in your professional experience has prepared you to manage and guide the state's legal affairs?
Great question. As Colorado Secretary of State, I'm the only one who has the experience overseeing a state executive office. I currently oversee over 150 employees and quite a big budget. I have been repeatedly in front of the court taking on Donald Trump over and over and over. And I'll tell you guys, it's not easy. I received 1,200 physical threats or death threats just last year. 4 men have been found guilty of threatening my life because I refused to back down. I oversee our legal policy in the Secretary of State's office and continue to hold the line. So ultimately, I have the executive experience. I've been taking on this administration over and over and over. And the last time I took on Trump in the courts was literally yesterday. So I look forward to getting this done and holding the line for all of us.
I've dedicated my career to standing up in court on behalf of working families. We built the organization Towards Justice into a national powerhouse in the fight to hold the biggest corporations in the world and the Trump administration accountable when they violate our laws, using the laws boldly and creatively, our antitrust laws, our consumer protection laws, our workers' rights laws, our civil rights laws, all of them, to make sure that we hold the elite accountable. Because there are not two sets of laws in this country. Everyone has to play by the same set of rules. We've done that against corporations and players that have many more resources than we do. And that's exactly core to the work of the Attorney General's office. Fundamentally, also, because I have seen what working families are up against, I know how the law is rigged against them. I've seen it in the legislature. I have seen it in the courts. Right now, more than ever, we need an Attorney General who has the experience and the knowledge to know how the law is rigged against working people and be focused like a laser on unrigging it.
I love this question because I think that something that we all need to understand in this particular moment is that the public servants, the 700 plus public servants that work at the Colorado Attorney General's office, deserve a leader that they believe is credible and making them charge up a hill that every day gets steeper and harder with fewer resources and more personal risk. As someone who has served both on the line level as a line prosecutor in the government and then made her way up to a senior political appointment in the Biden-Harris administration where I oversaw those 800 public servants and a $250 million budget, I will tell you that my mantra of leadership is twofold. Number one, and this is why I think it needs this particular moment,
Number one, I am always going to come to this with a place of credibility and saying, I've seen these problems, I've solved these problems before, and here's the path forward. And number two, and most critically, in a moment like this where those public servants could choose to be anywhere else instead of where they are, I will never ask that career staff to do something that I have not myself done and that they know that I haven't done, that I have done before. And I think that's critical in terms of leadership mantra.
Given the challenges we face right now, the next Attorney General has to have real experience as a lawyer. I've been a prosecutor for 28 years. I've handled some of the most difficult, horrific, and major cases that we've had in Colorado and when I was a prosecutor in New York City. The last trial I had was in December. A fire department captain who sexually assaulted 5 women, including a 17-year-old intern within the fire department. I will always prosecute without fear and without favor, and I have a proven track record of doing that. The next Attorney General also has to have real leadership experience of a law office to inspire the 724 people working in the AG's office to do justice, to fight for what's right, and to do it with integrity. I oversaw 1,300 people in the Manhattan DA's office. I'm the one candidate who's been a leader in the Attorney General's office, and I've handled cases all around the state of Colorado. And as the elected district attorney for Boulder County, I've had the honor of being a leader on criminal justice reform, but also taken on the King Soopers mass shooting, the Pearl Street firebombing, the Marshall Fire investigation. These are different crises that I've had the responsibility to respond to. We're in a time of crisis in our country right now, and I'm ready for this moment. And this can't be a learn-on-the-job opportunity because the courtroom is not a classroom. I'm ready for the fight. Thank you.
David, we're going to start the next question with you.
Okay. Test. Oh, I got it. Sorry. I was worried that I messed it up.
Not yet.
That's it. Start the clock.
How can you be proactive in protecting our state from attacks by the Trump administration, such as undoing our climate initiatives?
So I think it's absolutely critical that we continue to hold the Trump administration accountable every step of the way when they violate our rights. One of the most important lawsuits that Attorney General Weiser has brought is a case against the Trump administration for what he calls its revenge tour, how it's threatened us with cutting off funding in all kinds of ways, right? Because we prosecuted Tina Peters because of our mail-in ballots. We need to fight back and use the law in order to hold them accountable. And we're not going to win all those cases, but we're going to win a lot, right? We're going to win a lot of them, and Attorney General Weiser has. In addition to that, it's really important that we go on offense to hold federal officials accountable when they engage in corrupt actions, right? One of the most important tools we have in Colorado is state law, the law on the books, which prohibits, among other things, federal officials, specifically, from engaging in corruption. We should not be afraid to use it. Donald Trump might have presidential immunity from the Supreme Court. Stephen Miller doesn't. Tulsi Gabbard doesn't. If they violate our rights and violate our criminal statutes, we should hold them accountable for it.
So I think the answer to this really turns on the idea of what it means to stand up for Colorado in a way that reflects our values, right? And so, of course, I think we all agree, all of us up here on the stage agree that General Weiser has done a great job of choosing the right spots to take on this administration. And that's something that I plan to continue. I think, though, that what I feel really strongly about is that in thinking about where Colorado is going to be in the next 4 years, it's not enough to be anti-Trump. It's got to be, what are we for? What are we pro? And in terms of that, I think that Colorado and the AG's office has to spend a lot of time figuring out what the other side of a Trump presidency looks like. How do we deal with the systemic failures in our economy, in our system of social justice that led to the conditions that gave us Donald Trump? How do we make sure that we build a better society for Coloradans where we aren't making those choices between housing, food, or healthcare, that we can have all three? I think that is the strongest way to make sure that the administration does not continue to be able to exercise its power and authority in ways that violate Colorado's laws long term.
It's an important question because Donald Trump is a threat to our environment and the future of our climate and this country. But I also want to take a step back and recognize that when I was launching the campaign for Attorney General, I met with the head of the EPA for this region. And I asked, what's the greatest obstacle you've had to environmental protection in working on behalf of the Biden administration? And the answer was Colorado's Department of Public Health and Environment was the greatest obstacle they faced. So it's easy for us to point the finger at Trump, but Suncor was under the Biden administration. And the state of Colorado failed to protect communities of color and low-income communities. They got a $10 million fine against Suncor. Suncor made $2 billion that year. It's about harming communities of color and low-income communities under any president. I will not stand for it. And under Trump, it means standing and fighting in the court and standing for the rule of law like I have throughout my career. It's making sure the governor of Colorado doesn't bend the knee and release Tina Peters early simply because Colorado is being threatened.
I grew up in rural Colorado. Is this on?
No, I screwed it up, I think.
Oh, stop the time. David.
Present, okay, I think I just,
Is it on now?
it's in my,
Yes.
there you go.
Okay.
I will not touch it again. Promise. I will not touch the button.
Well, you have to touch the mic.
I will not touch
Just
the button again.
Do not touch the button. I would just say, growing up in rural Colorado, I grew up a couple hundred feet from Roosevelt National Forest and a couple miles from Rocky Mountain National Park. And I know how important it is to protect our beautiful state. Colorado has made tremendous strides forward in our climate laws, in protecting climate. But there is absolutely so much we have to do. Michael mentioned Suncor. Suncor is absolutely a tremendous corporate polluter, and it will be my top priority to take on corporate polluters. The EPA has been gutted. The federal government is no longer believing in climate change. So we really need to enforce our laws and lean in. Asking about what we can change going to the future, well, I think one of the things that does need to be adjusted is that the Attorney General needs her own authority to enforce our climate laws instead of waiting on the governor's office to lean in. This is a crisis, and we need to act very quickly.
Thank you. Petal, we're back starting with you. This is the last question in this series. What additional legal steps, if any, could the Attorney General take to fortify the protection of reproductive rights and marriage equality in Colorado?
I love this question. All right, let's get into it. I think that on the issue of reproductive rights, we are so lucky to live in a state that has enshrined the right for me to control my uterus and for you to do the same in our Constitution. That I cannot believe is a tremendous piece of progress here in 2026, and yet here we are. And so the additional pieces of progress that I think would be required with respect to that is making sure that Colorado continues to be a safe haven for other women in America that choose to exercise their right to control their bodies. And that means that as this former prosecutor who's prosecuted civil rights violations and all sorts of other public corruption offenses, I know how to make sure that that office, the Attorney General's office, provides cover and refuge for our abortion providers in this state and for any other woman who travels to the state of Colorado to exercise bodily autonomy. Let's move really quickly to our right to love who we love. Look, this weekend is Valentine's Day, and I think a lot about my own personal love story in the sense that I am in an interracial marriage. I'm married to someone who is not Indian. And it is because of loving you, Virginia, that I am allowed to be in that marriage. The idea that the state would control our most intimate of relationships is anathema to the point of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And so that is something that if anyone comes to challenge marriage equality, we will see them in court.
I should have cut you off, but I do love a love story.
So there I was, my wife and I on the Brooklyn Bridge. That is how it started, but I'm not going to take any more time. So
Hey, that didn't count towards the time.
well, they love a love story.
Jokes are encouraged.
I love that in Colorado, these are both protected under the law. That abortion access and marriage equality are enshrined under the law in the Constitution of Colorado. That's another reason that Colorado is a really special and progressive place that has to be defended and protected by someone who's going to stand and fight for the rule of law. When it comes to marriage equality, I've been working closely with Rocky Mountain Equality and other groups to defend members of the LGBTQ+ community. I launched the first district attorney's hate crime initiative in the state of Colorado. It's now a model for other jurisdictions throughout the state. I'm going to take it statewide and make sure we continue to do everything we can to support members of our community and marriage equality. It's a top priority for me. It has been for years. abortion access. There are roughly 2,500 elected district attorneys in the United States, 2,500. I was one of the few years ago to take a public pledge that I will never prosecute or criminalize abortions, abortion access, care providers, anyone involved in the process, because women have an absolute right, and that right will be protected. And now under the law in Colorado, it is protected. What that means is the next Attorney General has to stop other states from invading Colorado's information and protections. I promise you I'm going to fight like hell to protect it. Thank you.
I'm running for Attorney General to protect our freedoms. The freedom to love who you love, the freedom to express yourself how you see fit, and the freedom of women to be full citizens in the United States of America in 2026. I have a little 1.5-year-old baby at home, and he's been the joy of my life. And I could go on and on about that love story. But I'll tell you, as the highest ranking directly elected woman in the state of Colorado, I was pregnant after the fall of Roe and decided not to travel to Texas. Because I knew that trip, something went wrong with my wanted pregnancy, could mean my life. As Attorney General, I am going to protect the right to birth control, IVF, abortion access, and make sure these extremists who are trying to prosecute medical providers in our state, or the people who come to Colorado in desperation for health care, are unsuccessful. And I'll tell you what, I look forward to being the first Democratic woman Attorney General in Colorado's history, because if we had more women at the table, we would not be in this tremendous mess that we find ourselves in.
The right to reproductive care, the right to love who you love, these are absolutely essential to your opportunity to live a life of your choosing. We have to defend them tooth and nail. Part of that is enforcing the laws on the books. So right now, for example, our bubble laws in Colorado, which protect clinicians, protect people seeking reproductive care, are being violated left and right. We're hearing stories across the state of people coming in from out of state being harassed by protesters in violation of Colorado's bubble laws. We need to enforce them. Additionally, I'm really concerned about our SHIELD laws that protect people seeking reproductive care from out of state, and in particular, how they may be violated by the use of flock cameras. And we've already seen how out-of-state prosecutors have tried to obtain data through flock cameras in order to go after women coming to Colorado seeking reproductive care. Additionally, LGBTQ plus people right now are calling my organization more than they ever have before, complaining and with stories about being discriminated against because bad actors have been emboldened by the bullying from this administration. We have to go on offense to hold accountable all of the employers and other businesses that are violating the rights of Coloradans. We absolutely have to. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now moving into the rapid fire part of our questions. For this round, there is no timer, but you will be asked to answer in yes or no questions or in as few words as possible. Michael, we're going to start with you. Should the Attorney General independently investigate local law enforcement agencies without a request from the district attorney when there is evidence of systemic misconduct?
Yes, and that's the kind of work I've done throughout my career, and I support the Attorney General having the pattern and practice power that allowed the Attorney General, Phil Weiser, to bring an action against the Warwick Police Department. So definitely yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and I've also done that work before.
Jenna, start with you. Should the Attorney General bring civil or criminal actions against large corporations, even when those cases risk major economic consequences for Colorado?
I would need to understand the question a little better, but ultimately, yes, the Attorney General should enforce the law when corporations or billionaires are breaking it.
Yes, absolutely. And if the suggestion is that holding corporate bad actors accountable somehow endangers our economy, I have to say it's the lawlessness of corporate power that is endangering our economy, and we need to take it on with aggressive and creative and bold enforcement.
Yes, I have deep expertise in taking on corporations and beating them when they make the argument that taking them on will hurt the economy. That's talking point from corporations. I think that's a false dichotomy that I would reject.
Yes, because no one is above the law. That's why I brought an action against 4-Star Realty Company, and that's why I continue to bring legislation and support it against social media companies that are harming our kids. Not about the corporations, it's about what's right for the people. So yes.
David, we'll start with you.
Don't touch the button.
Should the Attorney General sue ICE for conducting warrantless or pretextual arrests in Colorado, even if the federal government threatens retaliation?
Yes, absolutely. Look, when you give the bully your lunch money, the bully just comes back the next day. We cannot be afraid of retaliation and making sure that we enforce Colorado law.
Yes, that's a clear violation of law, and I'm not worried about the retaliation. That genie's out of the bottle.
Yes, and that's why I supported and fought Senate Bill 276, which is what Phil Weiser used to bring a civil suit against the Mesa County Sheriff's deputy that pulled over a woman and conspired with ICE to get her picked up. So definitely yes.
Yes, and I have repeatedly urged the governor not to pardon, commute, or otherwise release Tina Peters in the threat of retaliation from the Trump administration. Look, you cannot negotiate with these guys. And when you stand up strong, they weaponize the federal government against you. Again, I have received over 3,000 physical threats or death threats. I've had to evacuate my family, and I've always stood strong. The rule of law will fall if we do not stand strong in this moment.
The last question, Hal, starting with you. What are you? No, I'm going to skip that one. We're a little over time, so I'm going to cut one of them. List your top 2 priorities if you're elected to office.
Defend democracy, and second, it's what I've been talking about of building a better Colorado on the other side of the Trump presidency. How do we make sure that our economic opportunities and our system of economic justice makes it such that our individual liberties have some meat on the bone such that we can exercise them?
It's about defending the rule of law, and if Donald Trump were not president, my answer would be our environment and our water, and public safety and consumer protection.
Stopping the would-be power grab, the would-be fascist who is trying to destroy democracy and the rule of law. And second would be stand up for workers. Stand up for the middle class. Empathy is great. I have the lived experiences. I know what it means to struggle to get by. And I'm proud to be endorsed by over 20 labor unions who know that I'll have workers' backs. That's why they have my back.
Taking on the Trump administration and taking on all of the corruption and cruelty adjacent to the Trump administration, first. Second, we are going to need to aggressively take on the concentrations of wealth and power that are making life less safe, less free, and less prosperous for all of us. Holding big tech accountable, taking on the union busting, making corporate polluters pay.
Thank you so much. For all of you and the questions you answered, we're going to move into closing statements, and Michael, we'll start with you.
First, I want to thank the organizers and the timekeeper, who has probably the toughest job on the stage. Can you join me in giving them a round of applause? I'm running for Attorney General not because I'm term limited, I'm not, and not because I need a new job, I don't. I love the work I'm doing as district attorney, and I live 10 minutes from the courthouse. But it's a time for each one of us to stand up and fight with every ounce of ability we have. And for me, that means running for Attorney General. Because I've been a public servant and a fighter and a prosecutor my entire career. I have the stamina for what lies ahead. It's why I've been able to travel 16,000 miles on weekends since launching this campaign. Because if you're going to be the people's lawyer, it means showing up and answering questions in every community across this great state. It means being ready to stand and fight for the rule of law as I have throughout my career. We need to make sure that ICE takes down their mask. We need to fight to get the state of Colorado to ban private prisons. I need to make sure as your next Attorney General that I have an office that's committed to fighting justice and doing the right thing as I have throughout my entire career as a lawyer and a leader. I'd be honored to have your support. I have a petition in the back, and I'm also going through the caucus and assembly process. My name is Michael Doherty, and I'm ready to be the next Attorney General. Thank you.
As Secretary of State, I've expanded access to voting. I've protected our elections, even in the face of threat, and I've repeatedly stood up to Donald Trump. Now, some would have you think that the Attorney General is a trial attorney arguing cases in the court. It is not. It is the person setting the legal policy for the state and standing up to the Trump administration. I am the person with that experience. I'm running for this seat because I'm a fighter, and we need more fighters in office right now. As a mom, as a woman, I know exactly what is on the line, and we are going to hold this administration at bay and pass common sense laws, assault weapons bans, pass reforms to make sure that women and families get justice in the face of violence, in the face of sexual assault, hold the line for working people, and have a Colorado where everybody truly can achieve their version of the American dream. That's why I'm running for this seat, and I would be honored to have your support. Thank you.
Look, now more than ever, we need an attorney with my experience in the Attorney General's office. Someone who has dedicated my career to standing up in court for working families, used the law boldly and courageously to recover nearly $100 million stolen from them. Someone who has seen how the law is rigged against them and fought every day to unrig it. I am hopeful for our future because I have seen the courage of the people I fought for. The working mom taking on the billion-dollar hospital system. The meat packer taking on the monopolist. The courage of everyday people standing up and fighting and winning in the face of insurmountable odds. We need to elect people who have been in the trenches fighting for the working class. People who are ready to use every lever of power to combat Trumpism and fight for a better world than what we had before, even if it's the last political job they ever hold. That's what I'll do as Attorney General. Thank you. I would appreciate your support so much.
I think that we all could probably agree on the fact that America is an existential point in this particular moment. We have a legislative branch that's not doing a whole lot. We have an executive branch that seems to be an open-air corruption market, and then we have the courts. And I share that with you to say the Attorney General's job is the one role in Colorado that requires a special skill or licensure, and that is to be an attorney. That matters because the theater of battle in this moment are not stages like this, it's not TV, it's the courtroom. And in that courtroom, Colorado needs a lawyer, a really good lawyer. A lawyer that can inspire public servants to do the hard work of fighting this administration tooth and nail every single day when it's not glamorous, when it's not easy, but it counts more than ever. So I will tell you that I am running for this office despite never seeking political office before because Donald Trump is trying to redefine what it means to be an American and to be a patriot in a way that excludes me, my family, and my service to the flag for more than a decade at the Department of Justice. And so to you, I will say, please vote your values because in this moment, it is critical that this brown woman with this funny name says to Donald Trump, if you come for Colorado, we will see you in court. Thank you.
Now I'll stand up. Thank you so much to everybody this evening, both the candidates and the active voters who have showed up and expressed interest in knowing more. So this is awesome. There are 3 more of these events before the primaries in June. I encourage you to attend and see what their questions are. Let's see. That's it. Everybody, go home safely, get out the vote, and please thank our Attorney General candidates.
All right, guys, good job. I'm sorry. I just like, I was just like, do not touch that button. The problem is that when you've got a mic, you put it down, you're like, oh, I don't touch the button. You know what I mean?
I gotta like.